Dan Illman, Mike Beer, 4 stakes, 3 graded at Belmont Park on Saturday. We'll begin with race number 7 to kick off the 50-cent pick 4. It's the grade 3 Athenia. And let's take a peek at this field of fillies and mares traveling 1 mile and 1/16 on the Widener turf course. Mike, the one they're all going to have to beat is one of Chad Brown's 3 entrants, the number 7 Off Limits, who just exploded to win the Noble Damsel last time out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she has been a good horse. I feel like she's been a good horse since she got here for Chad. She was a stakes winner in Ireland before she arrived last year. And even though she went 0 for 5 in 2016, I felt like she was sort of more unlucky than disappointing last year. But I mean, it's pretty obvious when you look at her 4 starts so far this year. She's really improved this year. And I don't even know what to say about her last race. And I get it. Sassy Little Lila, Celestine, even Time and Motion. Maybe they're not quite the same horses they were last year. But she just absolutely leveled that field from last to first. If she runs that race back, I just think she's going to win again. Dan.
Giant Buyer speed figure she earned that day, a 105. She has won 3 out of her last 4 starts, and she likes to make her run from mid-pack or near the rear of the field. And as we see from the Timeform US pace projector, that running style might be very beneficial. That red bar, fast pace, indicates there could be some heat up front, set by the 11 first-hand report. This is a Pennsylvania bred trained by Todd Pletcher. All she has done is win 4 out of her last 5 starts, including her last 3 on the turf. But this is a big hiking class.
Yeah, they're really testing her this time. I mean, she is 2 for 2 routing on the grass, both times just going right to the front and then just holding on at the end against some weaker horses. I mean, she's clearly taken on a much bigger test here.
Juno, the number 4, has Southern California speed. I understand why Neil Drysdale has shipped her to the East Coast. I think those firm turf courses out in Southern California just works against Juno. They ran her at Laurel last time out in the all-along stakes, and she lost her chance immediately. She stumbled at the gate. She lost position. You weren't going to beat odds-on favorite on leave that way. Now here she is with other speed in the race. That's the problem.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it did sort of feel like in that last race at Laurel, that was the spot for them to, come out of their running, make the front, and then see if you could wire that field, and it didn't work out for them after she got off to such a poor start in that race. I think they'll try and send her here. She's got to get out of the gate. They'll try and send her here, and then to see if she can take this field a long way. My problem with her is, Dan, I don't know if you agree with this, I sort of wish I liked one of her other races a little bit more. I don't really like her form that much.
She can get a little bit rank and headstrong out of the gate as well. Pulling on that fast pace might not be ideal. Chad Brown as the favorite is a nice supporting cast as well. We'll begin with the number 1, LEC's World. LEC's World just finished 2nd in the Grade 2 Canadian Stakes last time out. I thought she ran just fine. She ran her usual LEC's World race. It's a buyer speed figure in the mid to high 90s, and sometimes it gets it done and sometimes it doesn't, and this pace scenario will help.
Yeah, it usually doesn't get it done for her. She's 2 for 12 since she got over into Chad Brown's barn at the middle of last year. Both those wins in allowance races, and she hasn't won a stakes race yet, but she does tend to show up and run every time. I mean, she finds those horses a little bit tougher, but you're talking about, Dickinson a couple of times, 4-star Crook, who never loses, Quadora last time. I mean, she's run pretty well in all of those races, and she should have a setup in this race, and she's got a great post to save some ground. I mean, I don't love her in here, but there are ways to look at her and think she's got a pretty big chance.
The highest price of the Chad trio is the number 10, Penjade, and all she's done is win her last 3 races. And I like that Chad has progressed very slowly with this horse since returning from a layoff. Big layoff of 5 months. She came back with a slow allowance win. She gives her time. This horse needs time between races. 1 at Saratoga, 1 at Belmont. The runner-up that day came back to run her usual race, 2nd in an optional claimer again with an 87 buyer. I think she's rock solid. She gets the class test. Just not sure she's this good.
I agree with that. I feel like she's another one stepping up. I feel like she might just be in a little too tough here, but there's no denying this. She's been good this year. Even, the first one off the layoff, it didn't get a figure, but I mean, there was no pace at all in that race, and she was really good to get up and win it. And I felt the same way about her last race. I mean, they did not go fast in front of her, and she came last to first and ran that field down.
Grade 1 winner Decked Out would not mind pace at all. She would not mind a little bit of give in the ground. She won the American Oaks on New Year's Eve. There were some high hopes for her 4-year-old campaign. She got a late start to the season, not until Del Mar. In the Maybe, where she was up close to the pace and in behind some horses turning into the stretch, all in her first start off an 8+ month layoff. She needed that race. Last time out in the Rodeo Drive, I thought it was, again, a means to an end, and this might be the end in her 3rd start back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also feel like, even though I think she ran fine last time, 1.25 miles, it might be a little far for her. I think the shorter distance works for her. She just looked to me, I agree with your take on her first start off the layoff. got a little closer to the pace, but had some traffic at the top of the stretch. She was pulling a little bit last time, maybe getting a little bit too keen early. She didn't settle all that well, but she still raced on. I think you'll get her best race on Saturday. She doesn't have a great post, and I don't love the rider change for her, but I think she's a contender, and I almost put her on top. I'm definitely using her.
You and I have been big fans of the 3 My Impression since way back last year. She completed her season with a stakes win at Aqueduct. She hasn't necessarily gotten much better this year at 4, although her most recent start at Kentucky Downs could serve as the right confidence boost.
I guess it could. Yeah, you're right. She had found the right field last time. She won that race pretty easily. I got to be honest, though, Dan, I liked her a lot more last year than I like this year.
Thundering Sky, the number 6, pulled off a 13-1 upset against restricted foes at Saratoga. That was the De La Rose Stakes. She was able to get her way through inside and win that race over 2 next out winners, including Bar of Gold, who came back to win the Yaddo against fellow New York breds with a 96 buyer.
Yeah, it feels like, the trip in a lot of ways made all the difference in that race, and it allowed her to get it done. On the other hand, she was an improving 3-year-old towards the end of last year. I thought she started off her season pretty well this year. And even though it took her to that last time with a perfect trip to win, I still think she's running pretty well here. And that was another step in the right direction. I think she's a player in this race.
The number 9, Puka, is another horse that really hasn't built on that potential she showed as a 2-year-old, early 3-year-old. She has won 2 out of her last 3 starts, but one was an off-the-turf race. The other was a restricted stakes race at Suffolk Downs. She does have a versatile running style.
I like her running style. She's run some good races. It does sort of feel like she's probably going to find these kinds of horses a little bit too tough. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to be surprised if she runs a pretty good race here. She'll be a pretty big price.
For the most part, you have to respect European invaders in any of these major turf races. But the number 8, Westit, coming in, a 3-year-old filly by Tappet, really did not take on the top runners in France. She didn't have a lot of success, 1 for 11. I think she's a deserved high price in here.
Yeah, I think she'll be a big price in this race, too. Her form, there's just not that much, compelling form to go on. I will say this about her. When I started, sort of picking apart her PPs, it does look like her best races over there are the ones where she catches firm ground. I feel like that's why she's here. She has 2 good races on synthetic, too. I just feel like the softer ground over there probably doesn't do any favors, and that's why she's here.
Queen Caroline might be one of the longest shots on the board, a runner-up behind Puka in that Suffolk Downs race.
Yeah.
She came back to beat Maryland and Virginia breds at Laurel last time out. She needs to run the best race by far of her career.
I agree. I mean, she's pretty good. I just feel like she's going to find this a little tough, and she's another one. She likes to race forward, and if that pace projector is right, man, she may not get the right trip in this race.
Let's take a look at our selections for the Athenia Stakes. You're going with Off Limits, and I agree. If she runs her last race, she is supposed to win. Now, you hollered at me when I told you who I was going to pick earlier today, Time and Motion, because Time and Motion, while she had a wonderful 3-year-old campaign, just hasn't really gotten it together for Jimmy Toner this year at 4, and most recently Off Limits just ran right by her. Here's a case I'm going to try to make, and it might be a weak case, and maybe she just can't run anymore. She always seems to run better in her second start of the form cycle. I do think a mile is short for her. I like this extra distance, and I also think last time out chasing Sassy Little Lila wasn't the right trip. I think John Velasquez, who has ridden her successfully in the past, is going to take her off the pace in mid-pack, and she'll try to run with Off Limits. She couldn't do it last time out. I have to admit, I have been discouraged by the Time and Motion I've seen in this campaign, but perhaps if there is a time, it's going to be here. Her price jumps off of her poor recent running line. She's 6-1 on the line, but I would use the 5 and the 7. I went 5, 7, 1, and 3. You're going 7, 12, 1, and 6 in the Grade 3 Athenia. It kicks off the all-stakes pick 4 at Belmont Park on Saturday, and race number 7 is an approximate post of 3:43 Eastern. Good luck.